1989, the death of Ceausescu led to thousands and thousands of Ceausescu's lost children, the orphans, being adopted abroad. Today I have with me Cara McCulloch. She was adopted by a Scottish family and spent many years in the Romanian orphanages in its demise. Cara, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thanks for asking me. It's a privilege. You're very knowledgeable about this subject, so it's going to be fun.
So I want to kick it off by talking about maybe one of those harder questions right off the top, but what was it like living in a Romanian orphanage?
um, to be totally blunt with you, I've blocked a lot of it out because it was so bad. And your brain does that when you want to forget stuff or forget things. That's probably why I'm so happy. Um, it was. Are you allowed to swear?
Oh,
No, it was
preferably not,
bad. No, sorry. It was
but I
it was
see.
it was bad. It was yeah, they tied children up to cots. It was just really terrible, the awful conditions. A lot of time they're compared to a lot of other atrocities in the world. Yeah, it's really bad.
So I open it up with that question, and it's gonna lead into that storybook type map that we're gonna create here.
Sure.
And I want to talk about, so when were you born, where, and which orphanage were you in?
So I was born in 1989. So that's um just after Ceausescu got shot in Targu Mures. And then I was at either one of two, I'm not quite sure, orphanages near there. Um, sorry, to fast forward, I met my birth brother a year ago, and we only started talking properly in the last few weeks. And he has more information than I do about why we were put into the orphanage and where it was. Yeah, so Targamuras, it wasn't a very nice place at the time, but now apparently it's quite bustling and it's supposed to be a holiday destination for Romanians. Yeah, but at the time it was when I was born it was not a very poor place. I hope that answers. Tell me if I don't answer properly. Sorry.
No, every answer is a good answer. Uh, when we talk about, you said your brother was also in the orphanage?
So me and my siblings we got split up. For some reason they like to split the siblings up. So I say we as in we were all put into different orphanages. But I mean I'm 32 now. I know I look about 16, but we're still finding out a lot about why and which orphanage, and I'm still getting answers at 32 because I didn't have the confidence to research it before. You helped me with that.
I appreciate that
Because
recognition.
you're so good and so knowledgeable, so you helped me a lot. So helped me to research a lot.
You know, the the really tough part about this situation, that these lost children, and we aren't lost in the sense that uh, orphans weren't claimed, because there were tens of
Yeah,
thousands that weren't claimed, hundreds.
yeah.
We were the fortunate ones that now have a voice. So I
So,
look at
sorry to
your
interrupt you.
situation.
Do you mind telling a bit about your situation because I think your situation is super fascinating.
Oh,
Or
I definitely
for
will.
another
Maybe
sorry
you'll be the one to interview
podcast.
me afterwards.
Sorry, my
Uh,
mistake.
but
Sorry.
I definitely want to focus on your story right now, and what it means to you to find those answers. And we'll start with that. What it means to you to find answers about who you are.
Um, I know this might not be relatable if you haven't been adopted, so I'll try and explain as simple as possible because it is messed up. So I was adopted into a Scottish family. My mum's from Italian heritage, my dad's Scottish. So they are my mum and dad to me. But obviously there's this it's like something's missing. And I know this sounds really, really dark, and I promise you I'm not a dark person. It's like something's missing in your soul because a lot of people, they grow up and they never have to think about who their family are, why they don't look like the rest of their family. So it's just a fitting pieces back together in a kind of jigsaw of your life. But there's a lot of blanks. So that it means a lot when you fill those pieces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and at 32, you're so far removed from those moments in the orphanage.
Yeah.
Would you be able to, at any level, tell me how old you were and what you remember from the orphanages?
So I don't know my exact age, but so a lot of children, they got adopted when they were a baby. I got adopted a bit later than that. So I do remember a few things, but then I look at photos and I wonder how much do I remember and how much have I made up from the photos of the memory. If that makes sense. And I think that happens with a lot of people that were adopted in orphans. I go, oh yeah, that day, but it's like, am I actually remembering it or making it up because I've seen a photo of me, holding bars and seeing bar, looking. I remember looking through bars, and I remember there being a really bad smell, and I genuinely do remember that. So I know that's not made up. But then my parents, they have some photos of me with the few people that made sure that some of us didn't die, basically. And I go, oh, I remember that person, but I don't think I actually do. I think it's like a false memory. Sorry, does that help?
It's very, yeah, your senses control that, those memories, and obviously you've compartmentalized and put them away over
I,
time.
yeah, I sorry to interrupt. I know that there's a massive part of me that's wiped a lot of memories and a lot of things because of trauma. And just, when I was two, three, four, I know that five, I know that for a fact that I just don't remember. And it's like, crashing into a car and not remembering the actual car crash. It's the same sort of thing. So I'm fully aware that, some parts of my brain, they've just shut down to protect me.
Oh, for
do,
sure. And
do you
I
get that? Sorry.
I see that in your responses, not knowing these details.
Yep.
And when I think about someone in your situation, I think maybe the best place to look to is, what kind of condition did your parents say you were in when they got you?
Well, you see, I've seen photos of that. So I was bald. I had parts of tuberculosis. My skin was white. Sorry, my phone. I looked like someone that had just come from like Auschwitz or something. And a lot a lot of times orphanages are compared to the camps, and I don't say that lightly at all. And some of the stuff that you've talked about and researched as well, I found really interesting because you're you're very smart, and I've researched a lot into it too. And yeah, so I just look like honestly a Holocaust a Holocaust victim. But and sorry, I'd also like to say that with the brain stuff and forgetting things, I'm actually really happy that I don't remember a lot of it because it was so traumatic. Like I think I can live my life to the fullest because I don't remember a lot. Sorry if
Yeah,
that's
that
bad
makes
to
sense.
say.
I I look at,
Yeah.
you said about 5 years old, those memories
Mhm.
are essentially wiped up till.
Yeah.
And do you have any memories of seeing the outside or being outside?
I have memories of the sun. There was they were boarded up, and then I have a memory of the sun coming into the room, and I remember that because there wasn't usually a sun coming into the room. But I have no memories of that because we weren't ever allowed outside. We were tied up to the cots and to the beds. they just kind of left you there to die, and there would be about three. I don't know what you call them, nurses. I'm sure you already know this because you're so you know so much about this. But they just check up on you and maybe feed you, and then that's it and go. And you were lucky to get fed. It really
Yes,
really horrific stuff.
and for people that aren't really knowledgeable on the Ceausescu's lost children uh, and the orphans, they would pile in up to 10 kids into a crib and
You're
they
so
would
right.
just leave them there. They
Hmm.
would toss little buckets of
Yeah.
food or gerbil style waterings because there were so few staff for kids.
Yep.
And not only that, there were no resources to provide for those kids.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you there. And the resources that, in the UK, if they sent over a box or something, most of the time the staff were so poor themselves and had nothing that they just take everything. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. If you think about it, one in three families did
Mm-hmm.
abandon a child, and two in three have a relative that did. So we aren't an anomaly, but certainly a forgotten uh,
Definitely.
part of history. And I want to talk about more positive things in regards to what opportunities you were given as a result of that adoption.
Yeah, sure, loads. My family worked hard and did well so they could provide for me in Scotland. And I have a brother called Scott who was also adopted from a different orphanage, no relation to me. And yeah, we had a really happy upbringing, and I was so spoilt. I'm spoilt, I'm not a brat. So, so coming from an orphanage, from a, sorry, Scottish, so trying to think about a different word, coming from a really horrific place into to where everything was given to me and I had love and I had money wasn't an option, that kind of thing. It was quite shocking. It took quite a lot of time to readjust, and yeah, it was great. I had a great childhood after that. Studied loads of places. I've I've done loads. I realized that I wasn't as smart as most people in my school. I went to a very posh school, but I worked 10 times harder than they did to get the same kind of outcome. So I had to work harder. But yeah, thing life is good. Things are great. And I have good
And
friends.
what schools have you attended in Scotland or
um
outside of?
oh, see in Scotland when we say school we just mean you wear a kilt, you get it's like a school uniform, you all wear a kilt, and you go to school. I went to the kind of the poshest. I went to basically Scotland's Eton, and so Eton's this posh, stupid place in England where all the elites go to. So I kind of went to that same place in Scotland, and then I studied at eight different oh god 8 different universities, and then the last one I went to a year and a half ago was Berlin and University der Kunst. I lived in Germany for ages, and then now I'm in in Plymouth. Lol, weird one. And I work in London and Plymouth, and yeah. So there's a lot. How about you? Are you allowed to talk about yourself in this?
Not yet,
Because I know that
but
you've got an amazing story. Sorry.
I appreciate your story immensely, primarily because I didn't spend that time in the orphanages that you did. And the compartmentalization that you can speak on this, I can't, may or may not impact you today in ways that you have no conceptualization of,
Yeah.
is something that really interests me because in one way it shows your great fortune, but in the other side, it's like a paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to hear how those experiences in your first several years may have crept in terms of, say, consistency
Oh,
or the
loads.
ability to function with a
Yeah.
steady lifestyle?
Oh, honestly, loads. I'll be completely honest, and because A, you're a good friend, and B, you're very smart and knowledgeable in this. Um, I'll One way it's impacted me has been my sister. So, in if you're adopted from the orphanage, and you can probably elaborate more on this, because yeah, you either hang yourself, kill yourself, you go on under the sewers, the streets, or you get taken in by a religious family. Sorry, if you're not adopted, so your life for you is very hard, and yeah, it's awful. I'm only smirking because it's awkward to talk about, so it's obviously some kind of reflex. Sorry, um, and so once I was adopted, I had to deal with a lot of trauma and issues, and they are still with me to this day. I'm just a really positive person, which annoys all my friends. So so I can deal with it, but I think that's just me. Um, yeah, being adopted and having that trauma, and also not my family. They care about me so much, but they were you know, my mum cries if you talk about adoption and stuff. It's very hard to talk with them about the adoption, and I understand why, because I am their kid. It's just how they got me, and they want to know I'm safe and stuff. So I didn't actually know a lot. I had to research it and piece it all together, and find my sister and find my brother and work out what is going on. Um, and yeah, so impacted me loads. It's affected me loads. I don't take things for granted. Um, yeah, and my education level was extremely low when I came over, and I got so much help, so much tutoring, so much work. You feel this connection with people that are from Romania and that were adopted. Like I'm sure you get that too, where
Mhm.
there's just this instant connection where you get what someone's been through. Even if you haven't been in the orphanage, you understand that they've been through this process. It's very hard being adopted, but it's amazing as well because these people save the children. I see a lot of Romanians and they say, "Oh, it's terrible that the kids are adopted." It's like, well, do you want a kid dead or do you want it adopted? You know. So
Oh,
I
absolutely.
hope that
And
answers your question. I'm sorry.
no, it does. And
Yeah. Oh, and sorry to
I've,
interrupt. Sorry,
no, it's
sorry
fine.
to interrupt. But my
I,
sister,
oh, go
she's
ahead.
never gonna see this. Sorry, she's so messed up from the adoption. Her mental health and stuff. She has many issues. Sorry to interrupt. She will never see this. She will never be interested. So I'm not bothered. I care about her and I love about her loads. But her mental health and how she conducts herself in society all stems back from the orphanage and how messed up she was. She can, yeah, she can talk about it more, but I don't think she'd even be interested, and I'm sure she wouldn't be overly bothered with me saying this. She'd probably agree with me. She'll never see this, but yeah. So lots of people
Y-
have it bad. Sorry to
You
interrupt.
know, I look at, you said you were attended 8 universities.
Yeah,
You've been in the most luxurious schools.
yeah,
This is the outcome of what your parents have been able to
yeah,
provide you.
yeah.
Where
I'm
did it
lucky.
start when you got to Scotland? Like, were you able to walk? I'm talking about very basic things. Were you
No,
able to walk, speak,
couldn't.
eat?
No, my parents. It's really weird. My dad took this. You know, in animation, how? Oh God, I won't go into that. But he took a photo series of me trying to pick up a ball, and I couldn't. I didn't know what to do with it. So when you're in the orphanage, you have no stimulation. So there's just me staring at this ball, going, "What is that?" I couldn't even like. I didn't even know to pick up or kick a ball. I know that. I don't know if that helps explain it, but yeah, I was I had no
And
idea.
that's at 5 years old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. After five, yeah. It's crazy. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even speak properly.
Were you able to eat on your own?
I haven't asked my parents that, but looking at me, I mean, I look feral. So I don't know. I mean, I've never been able to talk to my parents about that, and I don't think I could because they'd probably burst out crying. But the thing about my mum was brought up in Scotland, but her whole family are Italian, Well, sorry, not all of her family. Obviously, her brother and stuff. But she's very strong minded. So I think if I couldn't eat, I think she would have just shoved a spoon in my mouth and made me eat anyway. Yeah. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah. And when you were entering school, you didn't speak a lick of English. So how long did it take to kind of even just be able to understand the teachers?
I think I talked too much. So I did understand bits, and also how you talk a lot more without speaking than you do. You can understand a lot more than you think without speaking. And I just read loads and learned it. I just kind of knuckled down and yeah, learn English. It's always awkward though. But it's
So
always awkward starting school. So
you found it, your parents helped it be
they were so
an
strict.
easier transition.
Yeah, I think because they're so strict, and I mean that in the most caring way possible. They obviously saw me and went, "Oh, cry! Oh no, sorry, she needs help." So because they were so strict, I think that was kind of just made to learn. So I'm glad I did. They were so strict.
Oh, absolutely. And coming from that background where you had literally you were that white room
Yeah,
where
yeah,
someone's never had any experiences, blank slate theory.
hmm
The
yeah.
fact that you've been able to do so much
Oh
is a
well.
true testament to that structure because ultimately that structure enabled you to
Yeah, I guess so.
reach heights that, say, somebody that never experienced structure might not have had.
It's just I think it's all about your outlook. Do you want to work hard and smart, or do you not want to work? So because lots of people have it rough in the UK. I mean, being a Romanian orphan, you're you're special, but there's so many. We're not alone. We're not. I'm not ignorant or arrogant. There's so many people going through a hard time, even in the UK. Poverty and stuff. So it's not just about you. So I
100%.
think anyone, if they just work hard and they have good resources, and yeah,
So we never spoke about what you did in school, and I know, but other people don't know that you are featured, your art is featured in some galleries in Scotland.
yeah, it's good. I'm lucky. I studied quite a lot of subjects, and then I don't know about you. Are you quite fickle? I don't know if this is like a Romanian adoption trait, but I can do one thing and then go, okay, on to the next, and just kind of plow through different subjects and different topics until I'm like a magpie until I go, okay, that does interest me. I'll stay on that. Something
So
shiny.
so what was it that really grabbed you about art?
Um, just the fact that I could do it. I'm rubbish at maths. I'm rubbish at science. I thought, oh, I can actually draw. I can actually do that. So yeah, I love it, and it's great fun. It's really good. It's just normal and natural to me. Whereas a lot of people are really good at maths and science. I swear, my maths teacher and my science teacher at school, like, I thought, oh Christ, Cara's here, another lesson. I think they would have been more happy if I'd skived off because we wouldn't have made any difference. I was that bad.
But if
um,
they head to the art gallery in, is it Edinburgh?
yeah,
They
yeah,
can see your work.
yeah. I've got a lot of paintings in a lot of national galleries, so I'm lucky. Um, I'm lucky. I've had a good career. I've done some set design, painting. Yeah, so it's good. I can make a living from it, so I'm happy. So
It's
yeah,
incredible to
no,
hear, honestly,
it's
because you went from an orphan that couldn't walk, talk, couldn't feed herself, couldn't has never even been outside,
yeah,
to having this intuition and ability to paint everything that you see, which is the complete opposite of what you were your first 5 years.
Oh, that's interesting. I hate talking about myself, by the way. So if I keep asking you questions, it's because I'm trying to deflect. So lots of Romanian adoptees are artists in some respect because it's like therapy, even if they haven't looked into this. Like, because you're very good at writing and you're very creative and talented yourself, and I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to put words into your mouth, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I do think that a lot more adoptees and a lot of people who have gone through trauma do tend to go to the arts because they're so good at it. They see the world through a different lens, and it's almost like therapy, so they get lot out of it. Would you
And
agree or?
well, yeah, I agree entirely. And I look at your situation and I think this is a person that maybe never even saw colors. This is a person that maybe
Oh
never
yeah.
even
Oh
saw
God, I
different
never
colors
thought of
of
that.
foods.
You're so smart. I
Didn't
never thought of
see
that. That's a good
you,
one.
you didn't see anything, and your
No.
entire world is every day where you go and you paint and you do different things. You're creating things that you in your
Yeah.
first 5 years where they say that's the foundation, that's where you start your life, that's
Yeah.
where your brain develops.
Yeah. I don't
Your
actually know
world
that.
is it.
Yeah, the age I was properly adopted at, because every document that I've looked at says something different because it's a Romanian government law and adoption is dodgy. Yeah, yeah, I suppose I've never looked at it in that way. How about you with your words? You're a very good writer. I've read a lot of your stuff and you're so talented. So maybe you didn't have enough to say at the start. You weren't allowed to say it, so now you're just writing away.
Well, I was adopted right off the start essentially. I think the prenatal nourishment could certainly be a factor, but nothing
Oh,
compared
sorry.
to, and that's just me saying it, but nothing compared, oh, nothing compares to the orphanage conditions. Although prenatal is obviously uh, a major factor in a child's development.
Yeah.
With in regards to your situation, you grew up with a brother that also had a tremendous upbringing,
Mm.
and he was adopted from a different orphanage.
Yep.
Do you feel that that might be a an identifying feature that proves people who are adopted and raised with
But nature versus
healthy,
nature.
happy family with resources
Yep. Nurture
can
versus.
do wonders for anyone?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think genetics plays a big part. Um, whether you're driven or not and stuff. But I do think what's it nurture versus nature. I do think that if you go to a right family, you can. I know it sounds cheesy, but if you have love, you can overcome a lot of the situations and the trials that you'll face from being adopted. Having said that, I know a lot of orphans that are seriously messed up be- and that have gone to amazing families. I do think there needs to be a lot of structure and some strictness. I do think you have to be a bit strict with Romanian orphans when they first come over to say, okay, you need to do this, you need to learn this, because I've noticed a pattern with a lot of Romanian orphans that are mentally ill or not quite right from the orphanage. They've not had enough structure, but they've had a lot of love. So I do think you have to be quite strict with them. Sorry, I also wanted to say something else. When you're in an orphanage, that's all you know. So you don't realize that there's this massive world out there. And so when I came to Scotland, everything shifted. But I think that's another reason why they're like, you weren't in an orphanage, but you know, you're very sane and smart for being adopted because it really does affect you. I with the nature and the nurture thing, because it's all you know. You can look at videos on the TV and see all the Americans saying, "Oh my God, these poor Romanian orphans, that's terrible." But if you don't know anything else, it's terrible, but that's all you know. So you think that that's life. You don't think I have it so bad. You think, okay, am I going to eat today? Does that make sense?
100%. And I
Yeah. So
think
that
that's
yeah.
that's
So
where a lot of the lack of appreciation for some orphans and
yeah,
their lottery. They won a lottery by going to
yeah,
the US, to
mm,
UK, to Canada, to other parts of Europe and the world. And I think that's where a lot of them have kind of
yeah,
not understood that a lot of their problems aren't because of their parents. It was
yeah.
because of what happened in the first few years in
That's
those
so true.
orphanages.
Yeah. I
And I guess that leads to my next question for you, which is is there a drive for you to have your own children at some point? And could you ever abandon a child?
um I'd love to have kids. You've got a gorgeous girl. She's so good looking and so smart. It's like ridiculous. So, I'd love to have kids, and I could never abandon a kid, ever. Even if I mean, I'd love to adopt as well. Um, I'm I'm not some social justice warrior, but I do think we are overpopulated. So I would love to adopt and maybe have a kid. Who knows? But no, it's But at the same time, I can say that from a place of privilege, and you can ask that from a place of privilege. A lot of these people that abandon the kids, had gone through one of the worst dictatorships in the world. You know, Ceausescu. People talk about Tito and Mao and Stalin and Hitler and stuff, but not that much about Ceausescu in Romania. So they had food shortages. There was a law a woman could not have an abortion. They were actually encouraged to have children for to become part of Ceausescu's messed up army. So times were different then, and I do think it's harsh to judge people, because I wonder how history will judge us. And yeah, they were going through so much that you can't. So when you say abandon a child, I think, well, lots of Romanians abandon their children. That's why. Sorry, that's how Romanian orphans came about. But they were obviously going through a lot as well. I just don't think, me personally, even if I was going through a lot, I don't think I could ever abandon a kid. But I can't put myself in someone else's shoes. Sorry, is that an
So
okay
have
answer?
that's a great
Sorry.
answer. And have you had any contact with your birth parents at all?
So I know for a fact that my mum is dead, but I thought that my dad was dead until 4 days ago. Remember when I messaged you? Um, my brother Ross, who I found last year, but we only properly started getting talking a few weeks back. He said that this is Romanian orphans for you. You always go on who knows what. You always put the pieces together. His mum thinks that our dad is alive, which I had no idea about, and fruit picking in the UK with two sons so my two brothers that we've not met. I mean, it's messed up, and how much of that is true, we don't know, because Romanian, yeah, the Romanian government wasn't very good with documentation back then, and no doubt they probably sneaked in before they joined the EU. So there he's apparently alive. So I'm like, okay, I thought he was dead. Now he's alive. So
So
it's mental.
you mentioned that you had a brother, Scott, that was
Hmm.
with you in
So
your home in
yeah,
Edinburgh.
yeah, he's my brother. Yep, he's in Brussels right now. He was a lawyer at like 21 or something. He's super
Wow.
clever, and yeah, he was adopted. Yep.
And now there's Ross is a
Ross.
very English name.
Yep. So Ross got adopted. I'm not sure exactly where he was adopted to, but he lives in Brighton. I will get more information because we're still getting to know each other. He lives in Brighton and he talks like this, like he's very English, um, and he works for some tech company. He's doing well.
So
Yeah.
you won the lottery. Uh, your family did really, because there were tens of thousands of kids that died,
Yeah, yeah.
that can't even walk,
I think
that
I'm
are
lucky. Yeah.
struggling, and three of your siblings, like three people in one family,
So
managed to make it to UK.
there's my sister, she had severe TSB, and the first time she's from Essex. Oh my god. And there was, a snowy December the first time I met her at the airport, and she had a belt on, which apparently was a skirt. And she lifted up her top and went, "Look, these are my scars." And I was like, "Oh my god!" So she got chopped up pretty bad. She had it pretty bad. I think that relates to a lot of it. Sorry, that's why she has a lot of issues. Yeah, so
My goodness.
three different kids. Yep, all
So there's four?
adopted. Sorry, so there's me, Ross, Gabby. We were all adopted to different families in the UK, and then apparently there's two brothers that are still alive, and I know that there's four more brothers, but they're completely unaccounted for. Yeah.
So two of your real, like biological siblings
Yep.
made it to the UK along with
Yep.
you, but in different families.
Yep.
And
So they
Scott
got
came from a different
drafted.
family
Yep.
and is your adopted brother.
Yep.
My goodness, this is incredible. And it
Man.
shows the scale of uh, luck and the lottery that you won.
Yeah, that is so true. And I won't say her name because I know if this ever gets shown around, there's this Romanian lawyer. She'll know who she is if she sees this. She'll go, "Oh Christ, what she's going to sorry, oh no, what she's going to say." Sorry. Um, she had she was best friends with her mother, and she adopted. Sorry, she took in the kids and she sold kids on the black market. There's a lot of that going around. So, but she made sure that the three of us all went to the UK. I'm being
Okay,
way
this
more
makes
honest than I
sense.
should, but you're my friend, so I'm just gonna go for it.
No, no, you know what? This is exactly the type of content that needs to be out there because
Sure.
I think we've highlighted obviously the fact that you went to 8 universities. You've been admitted into the art galleries in the UK, which is unbelievable. Your works
Oh,
are on display. And then there's the flip side of it, which what led to it was a lot of profiteering on
yeah.
the black market. Do you
And
know any
sex.
of the figures or amounts that were involved?
I don't, but I know you will because you're so smart at this. I do know that a lot of kids were sold into the sex trade from the orphanages, and there's a lot of sex work and abuse, but I do not know the figures. I'm sorry. And do you know them?
Well, I think there was a case by case basis because there was no
Mm-hmm.
actual regulation.
So that's
And
exactly it. You're so right. There's none. It was a free for all.
and that's where a lot of kids
Mm-hmm.
were some were fortunate like you and I and
Mm-hmm.
Scott and your other
Yep.
siblings, and others like the sibling that you had spoken about in Romania didn't get that fortune. But then there was another side of things where people would be sold for very little and
Yeah.
inducted into really horrible, horrible things like the sex trade.
Yeah.
And obviously that happens when there's no regulation.
You're
With
so
that
right.
being said, though, I think one thing I really find intriguing about your perspective in particular is that you approach it with honest eyes and without committing presentism.
Sure. I don't. So I'd also like to pick up on something because I think you might know about this. We haven't talked about this before the podcast, so sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. So, remember how I typed on Facebook, "Meet my friend Una." She was from a Romanian gypsy family, and she was born, and then they took her away from her mom. She won't mind me saying this because she's really interested and she's looking into all of this, so I know for a fact I can talk about this. They took her away and told her mom that she was dead. So there's also the sex trade, and then there's a gypsy side of this kind of stigma against gypsies. So a lot of gypsy kids were adopted. It's to Norway. I did not know that, but I do now. And sort of all the Nordic kind of places because yeah, because their families thought that they were dead. So there's a lot of hospital corruption as well. Sorry.
Yeah,
Side note.
I've heard a few stories like that where they go and they see their mother, biological
Mm.
mother or father, and the parent says, we lost you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we
Yeah, they
lost
think
you.
we're dead. They're like,
People don't
yeah,
understand the magnitude of what happened.
yeah,
Uh, and that's why we're here to talk about it because they don't understand that you could go into a hospital,
mm-hmm.
try to give birth to a healthy baby. You managed to do the most
Yep,
incredible miracle that the world has to offer. And that baby, a minute later, is gone, and
yep,
somebody comes to you and says,
mm-hmm. Yep,
your child is dead.
mm-hmm.
Sorry, your child didn't make it. Meanwhile, you just had a baby in your arms that was breathing and healthy.
Yep. You're so
And
right.
that is a struggle in itself that the the real base of Romania right now, from politicians to
Mm-hmm.
intelligence committees and stuff, are built on people that made profits from doing this,
Yep,
the
you're
most
so right.
immoral acts you can
Mm-hmm.
do to a human being.
Yep.
And I think when I look at you, for example, and we say there are so many successes that came out of this,
So happy.
we don't know the failure stories
Yeah,
that
there's a lot.
will
They're
never
hidden.
have a voice.
Yeah, they're. This is why I think it's great that you're doing the podcast because it shines a light. A lot of people, say if you walk down the street or meet your friends. I mean, a lot of my friends have no idea that I was adopted. I don't have a sign holding up, but they if you said to them Romanian history, they would have no idea, and it's actually so important for the whole world, like to understand and to learn about it. So, and especially the adoption side. So it's great that you're doing this podcast and shining a light onto it. And then,
You know what? I think also the people deserve um, to be able to speak about it. You know, so
mm-hmm.
many voices have been
Yeah,
silenced and don't have a voice. Almost every orphan I've met wants to go
mm-hmm.
back and visit. They want to find out information about who
Mm-hmm.
they are.
And that's so
Uh,
normal, isn't it? Like it's yeah.
it really is.
And
And
sorry,
we
will you
we
go?
look at it and think, and this is where my next question for you comes in is, does the pursuit ever end, and will any piece of information ever be enough?
Um, I have no idea. I don't know. I just want to know what happened um properly to my birth family because it does feel like a piece is missing from you, but at the same time i'm not I'm not dwelling on it because I have such a I'm so lucky to have a family in Scotland, and my mum is my mum in Scotland, my dad is my dad in Scotland. They're stuck with me, and my brother is my brother. So I am really lucky to have that. But I some you might interview some people and they say talk about reparations, and they say, oh well, when so and so is in prison and stuff. But I think that they'll all be really old, and I just think that it's not kind of worth it. I think that what you're doing is worth it. Getting the point out there. I'd love for, if you're adopted from Romania, that you could go back and become a citizen. I think that that would be something good, but the government will try and put everything under the rug and hide it because of how they treated the orphans so badly. And Ceausescu, he got shot, and then what was it, head of the Securitate, he took over. I don't know if before this you put this podcast out. Sorry, if you want to talk about the communism and what it was like living in Romania at that time, to kind of give a backstory to this conversation.
Yeah, for those people that were living in 1989 after December, what was it, 25th? Was it
Yep.
Christmas Day he was
Yep.
shot?
Christmas Day. Every Christmas Day, I'm like, fuck you. Sorry, flip you, Ceausescu. There's no
Uh,
swearing.
it was a lawless land essentially,
Mm,
and
that's a really good one.
there was no people don't understand, there was really no heat, there was no food. People were going through experiences that there's nothing that can prepare you for that.
Mm,
And when you're so dependent on a
yeah.
government to provide you everything in a
Mm-hmm.
communist system, you don't have any utility, personal utility. You don't have the ability to create a life for yourself because it's been created for you. And when we look at the orphans,
Mm-hmm.
we're that was just the people
Yeah.
themselves that were enduring that sort of
Mm-hmm.
circumstance.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about defenseless babies that don't have a voice, don't have any sort of means to feed themselves or provide for
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Yep.
And the adults couldn't do any of that for themselves.
Yep.
So the impact gets magnified for
Yeah. True.
those young people.
What do you think as well? Because it's kind of you were adopted after. You're only slightly younger than me, but what do you make of the generation of so, can I put us into the same bracket? You know, what do you make of the Romanians? What is Romania looking like now? Because now that the generation of children that were adopted, um, they've moved away as well. So a lot of Romania is completely scattered. Obviously, with joining the EU, but I think that it's impacted Romania in a kind of devastating way because talent like you, clever people like you, are not in Romania. Well, you go to Romania a lot, but you don't live there, you don't work there, you don't contribute to society, and so I think the Romanian government kind of shot itself in the foot a lot.
Well, I think they did exactly what they wanted to do. They
Yeah, you're
maintained
right.
power, right?
Mm-hmm.
They to this day maintain power,
Sense. Yeah.
and those same individuals and their group of friends in the intelligent community,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're still taking advantage of a population that
Yeah.
hasn't experienced a true
Mm-hmm.
democracy with
Yeah.
true
It's so true.
capitalism.
It's so true. They haven't at all. So did you hear about this? Because I've got a friend called Josh who lives in Targu Mures. I say it wrong. I say it in a Scottish accent. I know for all if Romanians watch this, sorry. The Romanian government won't let you out after 8 o'clock, and if you do go outside, they give you £100. I know it's because of the pandemic, but I can't think of anywhere apart from China and all of these places where they fine you for stepping outside.
Well, I was in Romania a few months back, and
Hmm.
I I felt that they were doing a semi reasonable job
Really? Okay. This is
with
interesting.
not with helping
Mm.
people and all that, with having things open to some degree. I was able to
Okay,
sit in a
cool.
restaurant with a mask. I was able to um, do more than I am in Canada right now.
Mm.
But in regards to helping the average
That's
person,
interesting.
it's
Hmm.
a totally different ball game. I look at that and I think, oh my goodness, how do these people survive? Their
Yeah,
average income compared to the price of things is just not sustainable long term, and they haven't even really introduced debt systems.
yeah.
So
That's
their home ownership rate, when that goes down, we'll see more turmoil arise.
mad. Hmm.
And unfortunately, there are people in power in Romania that don't want to relinquish it and want to pass it on.
Yeah,
And that's where expats, I think, are going to do a wonderful job returning and bringing the values that they've learned from Norway, from
really good
UK,
point.
from Canada.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's so exciting about technology today as
Yeah,
well,
me and you talking, right now. That's mad.
because people are going to see it. It's not censored. We can
Hmm.
say that the intelligence community is corrupt,
Yep,
and sure, it
totally.
might come off as, oh, this is a conspiracy, this that, but the fact is that we can
Yep,
be involved in the media and not have censorship.
yep,
And that
definitely.
kind of gets me to a point where I want to ask you about what it means to be a Romanian to you, and Do you have any aspirations to be there again and help or be there in some capacity?
Um, so I'm going to Romania in July. Just with my brother, my birth brother. Highly doubt that my brother from Scotland. That's so confusing. Sorry, will come because he doesn't want anything to do with it. I will. Uh, I'll just visit, but I do want to go and help kids. I just feel like it's a massive black hole, and I don't know if I'm mentally okay to deal with all the corruption and um rubbish that has happened. So I would like to help, but I don't know how yet. Um, sorry, what was the other question? Sorry.
And
Uh,
do you
what?
have any aspirations to reside there at any capacity?
Um, I would love to have a cottage or something there. I mean, I would love to go back if there was an opportunity. I probably would. I'm very far removed from Romania, though. I mean, I'm Scottish, so I need to kind of uh, make something happen to go there. Because if I went there now with my British passport and it just says Romania on it, I'd just be an absolute tourist. So I would love to do all of these things. I just it needs to be feasible. And yeah, if I worked with kids, I'd love to help out Romania. I would seriously. It would probably be a GoFundMe page or something. I don't know how many paintings those guys need. I don't think that that would help. I think that they need realistic help, like money, food, electricity, better healthcare. Major point. Things that I don't think I could help with, but I would try. There's a plan, and I really thought about it. I would make a petition or do something. I think that this is why podcasts are so good, and why this is a great idea that you're interviewing Romanian adoptees, because I feel like I'm helping in some way, even just talking about my story and kind of shedding some light into the plight of Romanians and Romanian adoptees. So I hope it can help out a lot more. I don't know how.
So
Sorry,
that
that's
sets up
a
my
bit
next
scrambled.
question. That was a
But
beautiful response
sorry.
because it sets up my next question, which is you've been Scottish all your life. How is it that you feel Romanian? Is it innate?
Um, I know this might sound really, really strange, and I see it in you too. I feel like adopted Romanian adoptees or Romanians in general are really open people and really cheeky and a lot of the time quite creative. There's just this energy, and I don't know whether it's in my head or not, because I could be making all of this up and a psychologist could be watching me going, oh, she has this. But I feel that Romanians are incredibly warm when you say that you're adopted from Romania. Even the taxi drivers here, they go, ah, Romanesque, and blabber away to me. So I do feel different, and I look quite different. Obviously, white skin now, but as soon as the sun comes out, I'm about 7 shades darker. I've got green eyes. I just did look different from the Scottish girls. Um, yeah, I think that there's something, we have some cheekiness. There's creativity, and I know that sounds really, really cheesy, and obviously I'm completely stereotyping. I know that there will be some really, really straight Romanian adoptees, but there is this kind of kingship that you see, and I can look at people and say they are Romanian without even hearing them. You look really Romanian. You're obviously stunning, and you're clever and smart. But you have this certain look is in within the eyes. You go, oh, they are Romanian, and I don't know what it is. I can just spot a Romanian. It's like a sixth spider sense. I can go, yeah, that is a Romanian person. Even, yeah. So just a look and some parts of their personality are quite similar. I hope that doesn't sound too weird. Sorry.
No, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I think from a young age, the people that were adopted, many parents and others ask, why is it that you identify as Romanian? You're Scottish, or I'm Canadian, or an
Mm-hmm.
American is American. We were raised there. We'd have no attachment. And
They
I
don't get
think
it.
that's, yeah, and I think
Sorry.
that's what we're trying to kind of get out of this is what is it really? What is it? Is it the visual? Is it something internally? Is
I
there
think it's
uh
both. I think you've hit
yeah,
it on the head
probably.
because you can just spot them. There's just this look, and you can just go, that person's Romanian, that shop owner's, or here it's usually that taxi driver's Romanian, and then they say their English accent, and you go, yeah, Romanian. So you can just tell, and especially with adoptees, all over the world, I feel like there is this kind of kingship. You just get each other, even if you haven't, like I said earlier, been in an orphanage. You just there's an understanding that's a deeper layer that I don't think you get if you're born, you know, if you've not been adopted from Romania.
For sure, I think there's an element of compassion there.
Yeah, you're very compassionate. That makes sense.
But I think we all
Yeah,
are
yeah.
because
Sorry,
it's
I'll move
like
closer.
when you're left on a doorstep
Mm-hmm.
and you know that somebody at some point, regardless of the circumstance, left you on a doorstep and you could have died, you could have
Yep.
had anything happen to you.
Yep.
Your compassion and your level of compassion for
Mm-hmm.
people in similar circumstances becomes almost elevated because, and maybe you can speak on that for me, how you feel connected to people out of compassionate measures, really, that go through something similar that you did.
So I'd also like to add, a baby in a basket. There's something really raw and human. When you have right and wrong, it's like hurting animals is wrong. Leaving a kid in a basket, I think there's something so raw and visceral because you're so vulnerable. You're a baby, sort of left there completely defenseless. And I think maybe you and other people hearing this and other Romanian adoptees can relate to that there's just such injustice there that it makes you more compassionate, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're on something there. And
I don't know what.
when you don't know, like you said, you don't remember what happened in those first
I
five
don't
years,
remember a lot, honestly. Like, I mean, sorry, the majority is wiped completely, and I know that sounds
but
awful.
what you do know is enough to tell yourself, wow, like what happened was wrong
Yeah,
and it should never happen.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree with you. Um, I think there's a few ways you can go as a Romanian orphan. You can either go up stir crazy, and I mean this with the utmost respect. When I say crazy, I'm not laughing. I'm thinking, okay, this is terrible for the person. The I want everyone to be okay, but you can either go like mentally insane, mentally ill, have some kind of personality disorder, or you become the opposite. Sorry, or you become the opposite and you become really, really compassionate and loving and caring, and almost more so. And this kind of ties in with the loving and compassion thing. You can become really aware, and I think you obviously have that, but I think that the happiest Romanians and the adoptees and the people that are doing well have that compassion where it's almost like they've been treated so badly as a child and a baby that it's kind of switched. They can either become a serial killer. I know this sounds silly, or they can love people and care and switch, do the absolute opposite, and yeah, bec-
And the suicide rate
mm-hmm.
for
Yeah, it's
Romanian
crazy.
orphans is so high,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
regardless of how
right.
great their upbringing was
Mm-hmm.
to coping. And
It's
I
it's
compare it sort of
difficult.
to CTE because when people have brain injuries, um, the suicide rate rises because
Yeah,
they can't really cope with the struggles that they endure
you're so
throughout
right.
uh, the
Yeah,
day-to-day life. And no matter how many steps they get ahead, something pulls them back and they don't know why. They can't explain
like
how.
self-destructive kind of
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, I had that for a while as a teenager. I mean, I would I didn't do anything like I wasn't shooting up or anything, but I fell out with my family and I a lot, and I took my dad's credit card and Hi, Dad. Sorry if you're listening. He'll know this. And I went to New York and Cuba, and on his credit card, and I was a teenager. So
Oh my
this
God.
was in the holidays during uni, and something inside me snapped, and I just thought, "Oh, I need to just get away from stuff." And I realized that I was running. Obviously, now I realized that I was running away from myself and this emptiness that I feel of not knowing where you're from, and it was um a direct kind of it was because I was adopted from Romania and because I had all of these feelings. And I'm not blaming that because I was the idiot that did it. And then, I came back to my house, my home with my tail between my legs, being like, I'm sorry. And having to pay my dad back and doing all of that. I was in a privileged position, but it was like I did go a bit crazy. It was almost self-destructive. I mean, who does that? There's obviously a reason. So I went back on the straight path, but there was I do think that people have that self destruct button if they're adopted and they choose. I choose whether to use it or not, and I obviously don't now. But when you're a teenager, imagine being a teenager. Well, sorry, everyone can being a teenager is hard, but imagine having that extra layer of kind of um stuff that you don't know what's going on. Yeah. Does that make
I
any?
hear what you're saying. Yeah, you're saying that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that
Sorry. No.
when you're a teenager, you're looking for a sense of belonging and
Yeah,
meaning in this world.
you are.
And there's an extra layer
Hmm.
on top of that when you don't even know where you came from.
Yeah, and your parents aren't telling you. I feel like it's not that they actively said, no, Carrie, we can't tell you. It was more they would get upset if I brought it up. And I think a lot of adoptees have that. So you kind of feel like you're all by yourself and alone. So you just lash out if you're a teenager and be an idiot. So I was.
So I guess the closing question I want to have is probably the most in, influential and inspiring of them all is you said you've been able to manage and be consistent and positive. What would your advice be for other people in your situation or something similar
Sorry, that
to
have got adopted.
be,
Sorry.
yeah, or anything similar that say they had a spell of horrendous abuse at the levels that you unfortunately had endured, what would you say to them is going to get them out of that and be positive and have that mentality that you currently do?
Oh, I mean, I'm not always happy go lucky. It's just in my nature. I'm just an annoyingly happy person. Like I'll say morning really loudly, so that can be annoying. I'm not like a robot that's always happy. I do have ups and downs, but I'm not going to tell you how to. If people want to know, I'm not going to tell them how to save the world because I'm I don't like telling people what to do. But just take each day as it comes and keep moving and keep changing. So if you feel low, you have to have a shower, you have to wash your hair, you have to get up, make each day count and make the next day better than the last one because we're all human beings and we all there's a lot of mental illness that comes with being um adopted from Romania, and if you just take every day as it comes and make every day better than the last one, that always helps. And be try and do good things, and you know what's right and you know what's wrong. So that's probably it, to be honest. I
And
know
I
that
love
sounds
what you
really
just said
stark. Sorry.
because the way to get out of depression
Hmm.
and mental illness is to always think forward.
Yep,
And
definitely keep moving. Yep.
that's a beautiful message.
Sorry,
And
there's a lot. Oh, sorry, you go. Sorry.
go ahead, sorry.
So I was just saying, there's a lot of people that talk about positivity and it's all in the brain, and they are all great and they are all right. But the reality is, if you watch these YouTube videos and you see people and they're like, "You can do it, do this and stuff," it's sometimes it's not realistic. Sometimes you just have to keep moving and things will change. Sorry.
Yeah, and for you, you found it in art.
Yep.
Um, that is what tomorrow I'm going to paint something, tomorrow I'm going to do
Yep.
this.
Yeah, definitely. Having a goal, having some meaning to your life really helps. I mean, because you have so many things going for you, and you have a beautiful daughter. You you have a lot of drive, and that you need to find out what you like to do and what you enjoy, and then turn it into a job or something you can do every day. So you do that really well. You're a good example of it. That having a purpose makes you happy. If you're just stuck, then it's like stagnant piss. It's not good.
It's so true. And
Sorry.
uh, this I hope we can do this again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, you're so clever, and you know so much about this topic. So I think it's amazing what you're doing, and you're putting the message out there with your podcast.
Well, you know what? This wouldn't be possible without people like you that are one of Ceausescu's lost children, and not in lost in the sense that
Yep,
you are a lost soul or a person.
I know
It's
what you mean.
you're lost from Romania.
Yep, yeah,
And
I totally know. That's deep, man. That's so deep.
I just like to clarify that for viewers so they're not like, you're calling your guests lost. And I'm like, no, no, it's a phrase.
Brandon's a good
And
guy.
I
Don't worry, guys. Even if he did say something, I'd probably just laugh because I knew he wouldn't mean it.
no, seriously though, like the lost children is just because Ceausescu named all of the kids his children, the ones that
Right.
were being born. So we are essentially the ones that
Mm-hmm.
got lost from his nationalistic
Yeah,
belief.
definitely. Yep.
Okay, so
I
next
completely.
time, till next time, I really hope that we can do this again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Honestly, you're a fantastic interviewer and you listen so well. And I'm not very clear sometimes when I explain stuff because I get nervous and I smile, even when I'm talking about terrible things. But yeah, so thank you for be- being a great listener.
Oh, I thank you so much for coming on and speaking. And the only reason why I do speak sometimes is to try and make you more comfortable.
Like, you're going to get that a lot with a lot of Romanian adoptees where they go, "Oh yeah, I've got to say that. I've never thought of that," or "Oh yeah," but you're good.
We'll have another opportunity to talk, and I really appreciate it. BC Simon, the truth is king, logging off. Have a good night.
Have a great night. Bye. Take care.